The National Desk, America's News Now.
Threats against the election system grow to more states as more suspicious letters are found across the country.
This is just extremely distressing to think this is where some people would go and how some people would behave, and threatening people just doing their job.
Seeking a solution in the Middle East, who will be in control of war-torn Gaza when the war finally comes to an end? And then dealing with the mental scars, how a certain program is helping veterans cope with the unspeakable things they have seen during their service. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Breaking news as we come on the air. We have just learned that the FBI has seized cell phone records and an iPad from New York City Mayor Eric Adams this week, according to the mayor's lawyer. The FBI is searching the home of a campaign fundraiser for an investigation into the possibility of Adams' 2021 campaign receiving illegal foreign donations on Monday. Mayor Adams says he is cooperating with the investigation. As of now, he has not been accused of any crimes, but will continue to follow the updates in this case and bring them to you just as soon as they come in. Right now, federal authorities have expanded their investigation of threats towards election offices and officials into 5 different states. Today, it was announced that California and Nevada also received suspicious letters, joining Oregon, Georgia, and Washington. The FBI says in at least 4 instances, preliminary tests indicated the presence of fentanyl. CBS reports more than a dozen of these letters originated from the Pacific Northwest. And you can see right here, one of the letters, postmarked from Portland, sent to Pierce County, Washington yesterday, says, quote, "End elections now. Stop giving power to the right that they don't have. We are in charge now, and there is no more need for them. We are in charge now, and there is no more need for them." In Texas, the Texas Department of Safety investigating a letter with an unknown substance within it that was sent to Attorney General Ken Paxton's office. Authorities have not said if this is connected to the other threats. And to the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, where Israeli forces continue an intensifying military campaign to dismantle Hamas. The death toll in the conflict climbing as the pressure to mitigate civilian deaths mounts. The health ministry in Hamas-ruled Gaza now saying the death toll has surpassed 11,000. That includes over 4,500 children. Bloodshed that began a month ago when Hamas militants claimed the lives of 1,400 Israelis. Just today, Palestinian officials said Israeli airstrikes hit 3 Gaza hospitals and a school, killing at least 22 people. Israel denying the claims on one hospital strike, saying its intelligence shows it was hit as a result of a rocket originating in Gaza that misfired. Israel has made claims that Hamas militants are hiding in tunnels near and beneath hospital locations. The casualties in Gaza and simultaneous humanitarian crisis, seeing shortages of medical supplies, water, and food, now intensifying pressure on Israel to shift its strategy. IDF forces have opened a humanitarian corridor for Gazans evacuating from the north and is halting fire for 4 hours every day. But Secretary Blinken said today it's not enough.
Much more needs to be done to protect civilians and to make sure that humanitarian assistance reaches them. Far too many Palestinians have been killed. Far too many have suffered.
It comes as pressure mounts on the U.S. administration from a growing chorus of lawmakers and humanitarian groups for a ceasefire. Just today, the UN said it was mourning over 100 employees who have been killed in the war, making it the deadliest conflict ever for the UN in such a short period of time. UN staff worldwide set to observe a minute of silence on Monday to honor those lives, and the UN flag will be flown at half-mast. Tonight, as fears of a reoccupation of Gaza grow, President Mahmoud Abbas, who represents the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, said it was ready to assume responsibility in Gaza as part of a political solution. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, meantime, telling Fox News the concern is unfounded.
We don't seek to conquer Gaza, we don't seek to occupy Gaza, and we don't seek to govern Gaza. We'll have to find a government, a civilian government that will be there, but in the foreseeable future, we have to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
When asked, Netanyahu would not say how long operations would last, suggesting there is no timetable. Also tonight, in the ongoing negotiations to secure the release of hostages, Netanyahu has reportedly rejected a deal to exchange 50 Israelis for a 5-day ceasefire. That's according to officials familiar with the discussions. Israel demanding instead the pause in fighting last just a few hours. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins spoke with one mother whose son is currently being held by Hamas.
As sirens filled the air in Jerusalem on October 7th, Rachel Goldberg received a WhatsApp message any mother would find alarming.
The first one said, "I love you," and the second one said, "I'm sorry."
Witnesses would later tell her what happened, how Hamas terrorists attacked the music festival her son Hirsch was attending an hour and a half away near the Gaza border, how he tried to escape but couldn't and ran to a roadside bomb shelter, how Hamas hunted them, throwing grenades, spraying machine gun fire, like shooting fish in a barrel. Hirsch lost an arm but survived. Hamas took him to Gaza as a hostage.
That's the last that we have any information about him.
An estimated 240 people were kidnapped, citizens of 30 different countries and at least 5 religions, to be held as human bargaining chips. Hirsch is one of 10 Americans.
It's so psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and physically painful all at the same time.
In cities across America, friends and family members hanging posters of kidnapped loved ones.
You're tearing down my cousin.
Almost as fast as they can put them up, anti-Israel demonstrators tear them down.
Why are you ripping these down?
Because it's false information.
To me, personally, I just think it shows that people really are not educated about what's going on here.
The White House not commenting on the issue.
Just not going to go into specifics on that.
How hopeful are you at this point that you'll get to see your son again alive?
Well, I have no choice but to be optimistic. And, otherwise I don't think I could get out of bed in the morning.
Rachel tells me her son Hirsch spent years saving up to spend a year or two traveling the world. He booked a flight for December 27th. She's praying one day he'll be able to go. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins for the National Desk, America's News Now.
A man wanted in connection with the January 6th Capitol attack is in custody after turning himself in this morning. New Jersey police and the FBI had been searching for Gregory Yetman since he evaded arrest on Wednesday. He is facing multiple charges, including assaulting officers and engaging in physical violence in a restricted building or grounds. Yetman due in court on Monday. And New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, the House GOP conference chair, is accusing the judge in former President Trump's civil fraud trial of bias. Today, Stefanik filed a judicial ethics complaint against Judge Arthur Engoron, saying he has broken rules and should recuse himself. The trial is ongoing, and Trump's legal team will begin presenting its case on Monday. Meanwhile, Trump will still go on trial in May on charges of mishandling classified documents. Today, Judge Eileen Cannon rejected Trump's request to delay the date past the presidential election. Cannon did say she'll push back a few deadlines so Trump's lawyers have more time to review evidence. She also signaled she could decide next year if the trial should be pushed back even further. The proposed contract between the UAW union and General Motors could be in trouble. At least 4 local union groups in Flint, Michigan have now voted narrowly to reject the contract offer. Several plants have passed the deal, leaving the vote about even so far. In the coming days, GM workers still need to vote at larger plants, including Lansing, Michigan, Missouri, Indiana, Tennessee, Kansas, and Texas. A total majority vote either way will take effect for all union workers.
We will say right now, we have a contract here in Las Vegas. Thank you very much.
And tonight, a strike has been averted in Las Vegas after Wynn Resorts joined MGM and Caesars in reaching an agreement with hospitality workers. The tentative contract came early this morning, just hours before the deadline, when nearly 35,000 union members had threatened to go on strike. The culinary union said the deal includes the biggest wage increase negotiated in its 88-year history. Well, only 6 weeks until the end of the year, but we could see interest rates go up one more time before we close out 2023. The Fed's Jerome Powell says he and his colleagues need to be confident inflation is on a sustained downward path before they stop raising rates. Our Atra Al-Nashar reports.
It's rare to see a benefit of high inflation, but the IRS just delivered one. Next year, most people will see less of their income taxed, and the amount that is taxed may be at a lower rate. For example, single earners will have a 24% tax rate on their income below $100,525 instead of 2023's level of $95,375. For married couples, it will be $201,050 instead of $190,750. The standard deduction for single earners is going up by $750 and for married couples by $1,500. Full details are on the IRS website. It's one of the biggest adjustments in decades and will apply to the 2024 taxes you file by April 2025, not the taxes you'll file early next year.
We're trying to make a judgment at this point whether we need to do more.
Inflation only causing headaches for Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and his colleagues, weighing another interest rate hike in December.
Of course, we don't want to go too far, but at the same time, we know the biggest mistake we could make would be to fail to get inflation under control.
Headwinds for central banks around the world are escalating geopolitical tensions. We saw it when Russia invaded Ukraine and global oil prices went through the roof. Here's a prediction Citadel CEO Ken Griffin made this week.
There's many trends at play right now that are pushing us towards deglobalization. And with that is almost certainly a trend towards higher baseline inflation.
For over what period?
It could be for decades.
A far more optimistic outlook coming from Goldman Sachs, saying in a new report, the hard part is over, predicting boosts in manufacturing and household income with just a 15% chance of the U.S. going through a recession in 2024. In Washington, I'm Atra Al-Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Atra, thank you. Coming up, a new alert from the EPA where thousands of people could be drinking contaminated water. What's being done about it? We'll tell you. And then how a unique program in Montana is restoring hope to hundreds of men and women who've risked their lives to serve our country. Plus, the new steps being taken to protect those who've lost loved ones after dozens of families received the wrong ashes from a funeral home. Stay with us. Well, the deadline to fund the government just a week away now, and it's unclear at this point if lawmakers in Washington are able to avoid the looming crisis. While members are putting out new plans, they are clearly at a stalemate and left town for the weekend without running into any significant progress. The National Desk's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman explains why.
New House Speaker Mike Johnson may have inherited the gavel, but it comes with a heavy burden, keeping the government open amid a mess of Republican Party infighting and the typical division between the House and Senate.
It's irresponsible ever to vote to shut government down. We would have over 10,000 federal employees in my district alone that would be without a paycheck.
Johnson had been pushing one idea to split the task from one big omnibus bill covering all spending into a staggered ladder of categories that can be tackled at different times. The one top senator reportedly calling the idea the craziest, stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
Every time the CR expires, the speaker's putting his head in the lion's mouth.
CR as in continuing resolution or kicking the can down the road with short-term deals.
The idea we're playing games with a shutdown at this moment is just bizarre.
If this all sounds like a broken record, that's because it was just 6 weeks ago that Congress narrowly avoided a shutdown by passing a CR, and now it looks like yet another temporary Band-Aid may be the solution.
It really shows the conference is not united. We're going to have to heal ourselves to be able to serve the people.
That from the previous Republican speaker, ousted in part for cutting deals with Democrats. Both sides butting heads over border security, aid to Israel and Ukraine, funding for the IRS and new FBI headquarters. House Republicans eager to cut spending in the face of a nearly $34 trillion national debt. Worried if they can't figure it out, Senate Democrats will force them into an even more uncomfortable corner.
We want government to actually run like it's supposed to, not be jammed with this huge omnibus bill that Senator Schumer likes to send to us with a big stinky Christmas package. We'd like to actually govern like we're supposed to govern, like our founding fathers wanted us to.
In Washington, Scott Thuman for the National Desk.
All right, Scott, thank you. We are just a few days away from a meeting between President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Today, U.S. officials confirmed they'll meet on Wednesday during a summit in the San Francisco Bay Area. White House aides view the talks as a positive sign after months of tension. Biden plans to talk about several regional and global issues and U.S.-China relations. Thousands of Minnesotans across 8 counties could be drinking contaminated water. That's according to the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA says public water systems and private wells contain nitrate contamination. The Minnesota Center for Environmental Agencies called this an, quote, imminent and substantial threat to public health. The state has until December 3rd to create a plan to identify, contact those at risk, and offer alternative water solutions. The tech giant Apple has agreed to pay $25 million to settle a case that claims it discriminated against United States citizens and permanent residents in their hiring practices. The DOJ said Apple would not advertise open positions on its external website for jobs through its permanent labor certification program. Despite the settlement, Apple maintains that any alleged failure was the result of an inadvertent error, not discrimination. And in the last hour, we have learned that Michigan head football coach Jim Harbaugh has been suspended from coaching games for the rest of the season. The Big Ten completed its investigation into allegations Michigan conducted an illegal scouting program against future opponents over the last few years. Harbaugh has repeatedly said he knew nothing of any impermissible actions. Harbaugh is expected to appeal the decision. Right now, service members are risking their lives, witnessing unbearable atrocities, struggling mentally. The National Desk's Angela Brown is profiling a unique program helping service members emerge from a dark place.
The program is called Big Sky Bravery, and it's different because it focuses on active duty special operations forces. Jake Kaufman speaks for those who can't.
War is very gruesome, and you see and do things that's hard to fathom that you've done and you've seen. I spent 8 or 9 years being gone, about 300 days a year.
Kaufman, a retired Air Force pararescue man, survived brutal combat.
I got blown up by a couple grenades in 2013.
After retiring, Kaufman said he didn't want to be here anymore when someone recommended Big Sky Bravery.
We had a few recipients, unfortunately, say that they were suicidal before they came out, and after they had left Big Sky Bravery, they no longer want to hurt themselves.
First Sergeant retired Jeremy Keller is the Chief Strategy Officer for Big Sky Bravery in Montana after spending 17 years in special operations, serving in Afghanistan, 18 combat deployments, putting up mental walls to survive.
My ability to be a husband and a father was severely tarnished.
Watching Jeremy struggle inspired his brother-in-law, Josh McCain, to start Big Sky Bravery 8 years ago.
Start something for individuals who have sacrificed their entire life to defend our Constitution.
It's a week-long program for active duty special operation forces, allowing them to decompress through high adrenaline activities during the day.
Not only is that person going to help them learn how to ski and fly fish and all these other recreational things, they're more importantly going to show them that vulnerability is the key to success here.
Then at night, it gets personal, asking service members probing questions like this one.
What's troubling you in your life?
A mental and emotional restart for those still serving, witnessing the horrors of combat and carrying that burden with them.
Who we want them to be when they leave is just somebody who has hope.
So far, Big Sky Bravery has helped roughly 477 servicemen and women. If you want to help out, scan the QR code on the bottom of your screen. Reporting in Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Well, coming up, Ohio residents voted decisively this week to legalize marijuana. Why the governor wants the law to be tweaked a bit before it can take effect. Stay with us. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
That's the sound of a loaded handgun taken by a school resource officer at Ballou Junior High School on October 13th. A 14-year-old student arrested for bringing a weapon on school property. The first of 4 incidents recently reported in the Puyallup School District. A spokesperson from the school district said they do not believe the students had any intent to cause harm or any violence to other students or staff members in the school district. However, to address the recent incidents, they will be holding a community forum next Tuesday, open to parents, families, and the public.
County Coroner Jim Allman says that he's been in contact with 70 different families who were given the wrong set of ashes by Heinz Funeral Home, and cases spread throughout central Illinois and even the country.
From Oregon, California, Missouri, Iowa, we're in the process of getting paperwork together for exhumations to get cremains back
Many sets of ashes came with a tag that was linked to someone who passed away, but many families did not have the ability to make sure that that number traced back to a loved one. Some sets of ashes were missing any sort of identification. Illinois State Senator Doris Turner has introduced the Integrity in Death Care Act. The bill would require a mandatory identification tagging for human remains and would create a system that would document an individual from the hospital all the way to the cremation.
What the people have clearly told us is they want legal marijuana in Ohio.
And Governor Mike DeWine says it will be legal, but not without some restrictions, ones that weren't addressed in the Issue 2 text Ohioans voted for.
We have an obligation to make sure that this is done right.
DeWine says he's spoken to lawmakers and asked them to rewrite the law so that children are protected from marijuana. As written, it's only legal for adults 21 and up, but DeWine's calling for a focus on marijuana ads and accidental edible consumption. Addiction counselors have some suggestions.
The packaging probably needs to not be bright and attractive to a child, probably needs to not resemble that of a candy wrapper.
Coming up, a toast to 248 years, how people across the country are celebrating the Marine Corps' birthday. Stay with us. Happy birthday, Marines. Today we celebrate the 248th anniversary of the Corps, just a day before Veterans Day. Marine posts and stations around the country are celebrating today with a ceremony that is unique to the Marine Corps. These ceremonies include reading the Marine Corps Order Number 47, an order that encompasses the rich history and mission of the Maritime Force, and a cake cutting tradition, presenting the first piece to the eldest Marine present and the second to the youngest. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. We do invite you to join us again tonight for more coverage of America's top stories. Just check your local listings. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching.